What's going on, everybody? Welcome to 3 Point Lead. My name is Max Loeb, Loeb's Leads. This is a Loeb's Leads podcast, and this is the final episode of our Division Outlook series. We're talking about the NFC West today. There's multiple playoff teams from this division. You can probably figure out who they are, but I do think there's one team in this division that's a lot better than people think. Before we talk about any of the four teams, though, if you guys are new, make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you like this video and leave a comment giving your 2 cents if you're listening on Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow so you don't miss the episodes that will be out throughout the season, as well as check out the past episodes, the episodes 1 through 7 in this series. Again, NFC West is our final division. Let's get into it. We'll talk about the bottom feeders first, and that will start with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I look at this offense. I think Geno Smith is still better than people give him credit for. I think the overall roster of this Seahawks team is better than people give it credit for. However, there's a lot of question marks to me. It's the offensive line. It's the defensive line. I think in the trenches, they will get bullied consistently, especially when you look at teams in this division. Like, the trenches in this division are not much better than Seattle. So if you don't have an advantage there, if you're Seattle and it's really not much better, you're going to struggle on the outside. And I think teams like the 49ers, teams like the Rams are going to eat them alive. And I think some of the other teams on their schedule, like the Detroit Lions, even the Atlanta Falcons now, the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, even the Green Bay Packers will have their way with this team. They play some tough teams. I have them 1-7 on the road and 2-9 versus teams with a winning record from last year, but 3-3 versus teams with a winning record or losing record from last year. Week 1, I have them beating Denver at home. Week 2, traveling to New England, I have New England winning that game. Week 3, getting Miami off of their mini bye on Thursday Night Football against Buffalo. I have Seattle winning that game. Week 4, traveling to Detroit to play Detroit Lions. I have the Lions winning that game. Week 5, you get the Giants off their mini bye. Giants win that. Week 6, San Francisco travels to Seattle. San Francisco wins that. Week 7, even though Seattle's off a mini bye, I still have Atlanta beating the Seattle Seahawks. Week 8, you have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Seattle. I have the Bills winning that game. Then week 9, even though the Rams are off their mini bye, I have the Seattle Seahawks beating the Los Angeles Rams in week 9, getting their second win of the year. So 2-7 at the bye. Then you move past the bye, you get San Francisco. I have San Francisco beating them again. Next week, you get Arizona off of a bye. I have them losing that game, losing that game to Arizona, and then beating Arizona in week 14 on the road. But week 13 in between, you get the Jets off of a full bye. I have the Jets winning that game. You get the Packers off of a mini bye in week 15. Packers win that game. Week 16, I do have them beating the Vikings, and I have them beating the Bears in week 17 to get up to 5 wins. But week 18, they lose their second game to the Los Angeles Rams in dramatic fashion. This will be for playoff seeding, not necessarily for division, but for playoff seeding. So I have the Rams beating them week 18, and the Seattle Seahawks finishing 5-12. And I have the Seattle Seahawks finishing 5-12. Now, I will say defensively, there's some good pieces, but outside of the secondary, I worry about this team too. And I think there are other teams on their schedule that are better. I think there are other teams in their division that are better. Every team in the division is better, including the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a team that doesn't get a lot of credit, especially when you look at their schedule. There are a lot of games they should win. I have them at 8-9 this year, just outside the playoffs at the 9 seed. Week 1, they're going to lose to Buffalo, but down the line, week 2, I have them beating the Rams. Week 3, I think they upset Detroit. Week 4, I think they beat the Commanders, lose to the 49ers and the Packers back-to-back weeks on the road. Not getting any teams off of bye is really the first half of the season. You beat the Chargers, you lose to the Dolphins, you lose to the Bears, that's a tough one, then you lose to the Jets off a mini bye. So entering week 11, this Cardinals team will be 4-5, which really is not that bad. I think their offense is going to be able to score a lot of points. I think defensively, they're going to be able to establish something in the front, but realistically, this team's going to score a lot of points and can keep up with teams that will also score a lot of points, like the Detroit Lions. I think they'll keep up with them. The Los Angeles Rams, they can keep up with them. I think they could keep up with a team like the Miami Dolphins. I don't think they can beat them, but they can keep up with them. Week 12, beat the Seahawks off a bye. Week 13, you go beat the Vikings. Week 14, you host the Seahawks. And week 15, you get the Patriots off a bye. This is like the focal point of the Arizona Cardinals schedule, because right now they would be 6-6 heading into week 15, in the thick of it for a wild card spot. This is a game you should win. It's the typical trap game, and the Patriots come in off a bye and they beat Arizona, not necessarily spoiling their playoff chances, but significantly affecting them. And then they would go beat the Carolina Panthers the week after that, lose to the Rams, beat the Niners in week 18 because the Niners will have nothing to play for at that point. And the Arizona Cardinals finish 8-9, 5-4 at home, 3-7 versus teams with the winning record from last year, and 5-2 versus teams with a losing record from last year. Let's move to the Los Angeles Rams now, a team that I think is better than people give it credit for, but there are some holes on this team. I do wonder what the defense is going to look like without Aaron Donald. With that being said, though, I mean, this team is going to win a lot of games. I think their schedule is moderately easy. They're going to be able to score a lot of points, and they're going to take care of business against teams they should. Weeks 1 and 2, I have them dropping. We talked about that. But week 3, you go beat the 49ers at home. Week 4, you lose to the Bears. Week 5, you beat the Packers at home. Then week 6, you get an early bye. So you're 2 and 3 at the bye, and you get the Raiders off the bye. That's almost like a get-right game, in my opinion. You beat the Raiders 3 and 3. You beat the Minnesota Vikings week 8. You move to 4 and 3. You lose one to Seattle, but you beat Miami the week after that. So you're 5 and 4. And then, guys, it's all Rams from here on out. They beat the Patriots. They lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. But then they get the Saints. They beat the Bills. They lose to the Niners again. Then they beat the Jets off of their mini-bye, host the Cardinals and beat them, host the Seattle Seahawks and beat them. Guys, that puts the Los Angeles Rams at 11 and 6, number 5 in the NFC. I think this team is going to be able to score a lot of points. There are some good aspects to that defense. I think they got better in the back end. I think even though they lost Aaron Donald, they did everything they could to make up for that loss. I think the Rams are a better team than people can give them credit for. I really do. But they're not the San Francisco 49ers, who are atop this division at 12 and 5. And again, it's important to understand week 18 for this team, they will only have seeding to play for, right? They'll have a home game to play for. And at that point, you look at the tiebreakers that they have, they're going to wind up losing to Detroit, so they can't get ahead of them at the end of the season anyways. So week 17, they do lose to Detroit. Spoiler. But this team finished 12 and 5, wins against the Jets, the Vikings, a loss against the Rams, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Cowboys. Chiefs and Cowboys both at home. And then you have a win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the bye. Seahawks lose to the Packers, lose to the Bills. Then you beat the Bears, the Rams, the Dolphins, lose to the Lions again in week 17, and beat the lose to the Cardinals in week 18. So this team is 12 and 5, 6 and 4 versus teams with a winning record from last year, 6 and 1 versus teams with a losing record from last year, winning games they should, and then also beating teams that are as good, if not better than they are. 12 and 5. So you look at this division, it's the Niners and it's the Rams, like the upper echelon of this division, and then dropping off. Cardinals 8 and 9. I do think they're a decent team below 500, and then the Seattle Seahawks at 5 and 12. Let's move into the award predictions for this division. With the award predictions in this division, it's the Offensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year, my Rookie of the Year, my Sleeper of the Year, and my Breakout Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to get out right away. Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year. Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year. I hate to do this. I really do. But I think the talent level with Nick Bosa compared to some of the other defensive players in this division is not really close. I think he is the best defensive player in this division, maybe him or Fred Warner if you want to argue that. But the production that Bosa will have as an edge rusher will push him above anybody else in this division. I did think about Devon Witherspoon. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But Offensive Player of the Year, McCaffrey, I mean, you worry about the calf strain, sure. But in this offense with all the playmakers that they have, if he's healthy, he's going to have another unbelievable season, getting in the end zone a ton. Like, I would not be super worried about Christian McCaffrey if he stays healthy, assuming he will put up the numbers he did last year. But there are some other players in this division we need to talk about, and we will talk about my Breakout Player of the Year, and that's Kobe Turner of the Los Angeles Rams. I thought he looked really good last year. When you talk about guys who need to fill some type of void for Aaron Donald, he is definitely up there. I don't necessarily think that he is going to fill the shoes on his own. I think that's almost impossible to do, but I think Kobe Turner can step in and push double-digit sacks. I believe he had 9 last year, be a force in the run game, and really affect teams in a different way without Aaron Donald. Somebody's going to have to do it. He's going to have the biggest impact and the biggest hand in it, but it will be a team effort. My Sleeper of the Year, Tariq Woolen. For some reason last year, I don't know if it was the effort in the tackling. I think that was a big thing in Seattle, but Mike McDonald coming in, probably going to change that if I had to guess. I think that Tariq Woolen has every single natural ability to be a top corner in the league. He's tall, he's fast, he's athletic. He had an unbelievable rookie campaign. Took a step back a little bit in year 2, which was last year. But year 3, new culture, new coach. I think he is kind of given the keys along with Devon Witherspoon to really make a difference in the secondary in Seattle. I think when you look at the Seattle defense, that's the best unit they have. But I love Tariq Woolen. I love his ability and his talent. I think he's slept on because of the poor situation, if you will, last year. Being benched, not being on the field as much as he felt he should have. He will have a good year, assuming he is on the field. That is my Sleeper of the Year. Nobody's talking about him. But my Rookie of the Year, Marvin Harrison Jr. The last time the Arizona Cardinals had a true dominant X on the outside, it was DeAndre Hopkins, and granted, that was when DeAndre Hopkins was really in his prime. He had 1,400 yards, I believe, 160 targets, caught 115 of those balls, half a dozen touchdowns. Like, the production will be there. The targets will be there. He'll be the mainstay in the offense, and he's going to put up a ton of numbers. I think when you look at his season-long projections, they're a little bit low, which you can go check out on Better Picks. That's a sponsor of this video. You can join with code LEADS, LEADS, and get your first deposit matched up to $250. Best way to play fantasy sports. You pick more or less on your favorite players. But the projections for Marvin Harrison, I think, are a little disrespectful. I think he's a 1,200-plus yard receiver, one of my favorite fantasy picks and fantasy drafts as well, because he's going late second round. Harrison is my rookie of the year. So we go offensive player of the year, Christian McCaffrey. Defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa. Rookie of the year, Marvin Harrison. My breakout player, Kobe Turner. My sleeper, Tariq Woolen. That's how the NFC West looks. And again, if you guys are just joining and just watching this video for the first time, or just listening to this podcast for the first time, make sure you check out the first 7 episodes so you can see the full playoff teams. I appreciate you guys sticking with me throughout this entire series. Check out the others if you haven't already. Until next time, God bless.